The Badgers have taken a big step towards fixing their defensive line this offseason. I'm going to tell you why the latest addition is another big get for Wisconsin.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Happy Sunday. Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings, as always, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and grateful and gracious that you are here. Thank you for tuning in, however you're going to get this show. Today's episode, we are talking about the latest portal commit to Wisconsin. Look at the defensive line next year. Where do we think this guy will play? All of that and more. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first win is $5, or with your first $5 win, or at FanDuel.com to get started. And we got one to talk about. The Badgers get another piece in the portal, which means we are going to shoot the cannons and talk about what his fit is with Wisconsin.
Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
All right, so Parker Peterson, Tulane defensive lineman last year, commits to the University of Wisconsin, 6'4", about 300 pounds. So he's a three-tech. And for people who maybe don't follow along with what that actually means on the defensive line, he's going to be lining up kind of over the guard, kind of in that area. He's not going to be over the center. That's more of a zero tech. He's not going to be between the center guard. That's more of that one tech. This defense still misses a zero tech. That zero tech is that guy that LSU, Georgia, some of those bigger schools have, that's 340 pounds, and you just can't move them. This is more of a three-tech. But you need a three-tech. You need a couple of them on this team. And you lost a couple. Kurt Neal was kind of a three-tech. So you need to replace those bodies. Parker, by the way, Parker Peterson, whenever I say that name, I don't know if it's just me. I think Spider-Man, because Peter Parker. This is like inverse Parker Peterson. It's going to trip me up for the entirety of next year, because I'm going to keep wanting to call him Peter Parker. Maybe I'm just going to do that. I probably just will do that. Let's talk about Parker Peterson, though. 6'4", about 300 pounds, coming over from Tulane last year. Had a good year. 21 tackles, 5 TFLs, which if you're a bigger kind of run-stopping defensive end, 3-tech, 5 TFLs and 2.5 sacks, that's fine. It's solid. And maybe that's the word for the defensive line this year. Can they just get solid? Because you look at a Mason Reiger they brought in. He was the Louisville commit. You look at Parker Peterson coming in, and they're just both bigger, solid guys. They have some burst, but they're not freak shows. It's more like, have we added a Matt Henningsen and a Chikwe Obashi, if you go back to Wisconsin defensive linemen? And I think that's the goal, adding pieces like that can get the defensive line solid. Interestingly, with Peterson, you look at the offer list. This is a guy who had offers in the portal from USC, Auburn, Notre Dame, Indiana, Rutgers. This is a really big recruiting win for Wisconsin, the type of player that they needed to get. They've locked him down early. Let's look at that defensive line now. Coming into next year, you've added a Mason Reiger, and the Badgers still on a couple defensive linemen in the portal. They may not be done, but when I did my pre-portal show, I talked about these are the bodies you need to add. I said you need to add at least 2 on the defensive line, and if you can add more, great. But they've already added 2. If they could still get a Wheeler, or there's a couple of guys they're in on. They knocked it out of the park in the defense line class this year. If you remember last year, they missed on a couple of their plan A's on the defensive line group. They missed on a couple of their plan B's. It took them a while to fill out with a Brendan Lane and within Elijah Hills. It took a while to get there. These are plan A targets that they've hit. Reiger and Peterson are plan A targets for them. Peterson's one of the top 10, I think, defensive line recruits in the portal per on 3, one of the better defensive tackles. Again, depending on what kind of defense you were going to play, he could play tackle in a 4-3, but he's probably going to play that end in a 3-4. Excuse me. Let's look at the defensive line next year now. So you've added a Mason Reiger, who I think is going to start. You've added a Parker Peterson, who is going to play in the rotation. You still have a Willer coming back, who I think Willer can play kind of that jack position. He's going to be 260, 270. I think this defense is probably shifting into a bit of a 4-2-5. They want to get bigger on the front. I think Willer's going to play in there. You have a Dylan Johnson, who is certainly going to take a step, who played a lot last year. There's another guy that can slide into the inside. I still worry a little bit about you just don't, and maybe Jamel Howard. Maybe Jamel Howard can take a step in his 3rd year in the program. It's not impossible. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. We've seen players, we've seen a ton of players throughout their history at Wisconsin take jumps their third or fourth year in the program. I've said this before, and I'm going to continue saying it. The portal has sped up fans' expectations of players. They write them off too early. I'm already hearing people writing off Mabry Metoyer. The dude's been here for a year. And maybe he's not going to be the guy, but you don't write him off after a year. Jamel Howard's just going to be going into his redshirt sophomore year. He has to, man, I don't want to say he has to take a jump, but I don't think they have another guy on the defense who you can put in the middle. So if he could take a jump, it'd be enormous. But even if he doesn't, this is looking like a bit of a retooled defensive line room, right? I think you're going to have more reps from Willard next year. You're going to have a better showing from Dylan Johnson. You're going to have these couple portal additions with one more potentially on the way. I do think a guy like Xavier Uponu could give you some reps this year. So, okay, progress, right? Let's get some of your comments here, and then we're going to kind of talk about how they've done so far and look at all three of them. Darcy Bean says Santa's come to town. A couple other, Cannon points out a couple other comments are a couple other players coming in. I can tell you for a fact the Badgers aren't done. Captain Obvious here, but I've been told they're not done. There's more coming. But this is a really good start. You hit on 3 Plan A targets. And I think you've gone 3 for 3 in guys that are going to contribute next year. Every one of these players feels like a high floor guy, at least. With Koziel, the tight end, Reiger, and Peterson. These are all players that I think you can slot in and say they're going to be in the rotation next year. And on the defensive line specifically, that is so important. Go look at Bama and Georgia. Go look at Ohio State. They have 8 guys on the defensive line that play, and they just rotate them through. Go look at Michigan. Go look, especially last year. You have to have a rotation. And if Parker Peterson just slots into the 2 deep on that rotation but gives you 30 reps, that's an absolute win. That's an absolute win. The other part of this that you have to feel good about if you're a Badger fan, and this has been a concern, I've talked about it, other people have talked about it. You're not getting these guys unless you're paying them. And if you're fighting, if you're going into the battle ring, if you're going to the octagon with Auburn, USC, Notre Dame, Indiana's got money, y'all. They are flush with cash after this season. If you're going into the octagon with those players or with those teams and you're coming out as the victor, that doesn't mean you're spending the most. I want to be clear on that. It does mean you're competitive. And as a Badger fan, that should make you feel good. Bo Dragon says maybe Howard can take a step in year 3. If he doesn't, they suck at evaluation. I don't think it means they suck at evaluation. The best evaluators still miss on talent. There's some intangible things you can never know about a player until you get him in the program. But yeah, maybe he can take a step in year 3. That'd be a big one. Greg Lincecum, friend of the show, says D-line has been a weakness for a long time. Finally, they are addressing it. Now needs to see production, at least progress on the field. Yeah, it can be done. And I'll say this too. Last year, we thought they overhauled the linebacker room. We said, wow, what a great job. So I am in a little bit more of a wait and see. I do feel like these guys have a little more higher floor. They have a little bit more of a floor there. And that part of it is exciting to me. All right, let's take a quick break. Then I want to get into everything they've done in the portal so far and how I would grade that, plus get your comments. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel is awesome. FanDuel remains the number one source for all your sports betting needs. Whatever you need to do is over at FanDuel.com. Again, early $5 bet for first-time guys gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed over at FanDuel. They are fast, simple, easy, very, very user-friendly. The user interface it's simple enough. I figure it out, right? If you could be a first-time bettor, walk into the FanDuel.com virtual lobby where they're going to greet you nicely because that's who they are. And you can place all your bets easily, simply. Plus, college football playoffs is coming up. This is a great time to do over at FanDuel.com. Again, first-time users, $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the NFL. By the way, if you hear my children yelling upstairs, I apologize. Today's episode is also brought to you by our great new friends over at College Football on TNT. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss the moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, let's get your comments, y'all. What are you doing on a Sunday? How excited are we here? O-Train says this team should already be wildly improved next season. 7-4, maybe 8-4 if we keep bringing guys in with that schedule. Let's go, Trey. I love the optimism. Let's be honest. You're not that far off from 6-6, 7-5 if you just get better quarterback play. If you get better quarterback play coupled with better defensive line play, I think you're solidly in that 7-5 type year. Listen, next year's still going to be a bear. 100% it is, but you can really start to see the path to improvement with moderate quarterback play, which they still got to land their quarterback, right? That's still out there. But moderate quarterback play coupled with better, just a little more stout defensive lineman. And it, again, solid, stout. If you're talking about one thing on the defensive line this year, that's what it's got to be. You're not going to go from what you had last year to an Ohio State defensive line in one offseason. Can you go from what you had last year to a respectable defensive line where you're getting the opponent into 2nd and 7 more often? And then you can use those edge rushers that you started to be recruiting. Because that's part of it too. We've been talking about, well, where's the pressure? Where's the edge pressure? It's harder to get that pressure when you're never putting offenses into 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9. We didn't do it consistently enough last year because teams gashed us. You got to be solid up front. These two pieces they've added have helped you get solid up front. TJ says, need to get another. White Marlin says, let's go. Justin Tyler, fire the cannons. Brian Struts, 3 potential starters so far. Yeah, that's a good one right there. All of those are good. But Brian, 3 potential starters so far. I wonder if Peterson's going to start or if he's going to be in a rotation. I don't know. I'm going to be wait and see on that one a little bit. But I think you're getting 3 guys that are going to play a lot. Jake says, let's go Badgers. Let's go. That's right. Jake also says he'll be back in the U.S. in 4 days. Man, travel safe, my friend. Will Hanna says the tight end was one of their top targets. Yeah, Plan A guy. Will was all over that. He's one of the top targets in the country. You added a offensive weapon that caught 94 passes last year. That's huge. Mehmet says, is he going to play defensive end or inside? So it really depends, and that's a great question, Mehmet. It really depends on where the scheme goes. Are they going to commit to playing a 2-4, or is it going to be more of a 4-2? I think it's going to be a 4-2, and with that 4-2, I think he's going to be kind of on that edge, probably. But he's also a guy that you could slide inside. Some of these guys have versatility. Reiger's like that. Reiger's going to be an edge guy, but maybe on passing downs, you slide him to the inside, and then you have more of a pass rushing package with Lafayette, Heiberger, those kind of types coming in, or even a Clayton, right? Maybe one of these guys slides inside on pass rushing situations, and then you have outside pressure from your speedy guys. All right, we're going to kind of wrap it up there, guys, because I feel like people are Ryan. Oh, Mehmet says thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you guys for all tuning in. We are hosting family today, and I hear them kind of filtering in. So I definitely don't want to be rude in terms of not being there for the fam, but I wanted to get this show off because this is a big one. Anytime you get a defense lineman in the portal, it's a big one because these guys are hard to get. They're expensive to get. The competition for talented ones is absolutely fierce, right? You look at that USC, Auburn, Notre Dame offer list. These are big wins, and understand that these are big wins. But yeah, I'm going to roll because the family's here on Wisconsin. I really do appreciate all of you. Happy Sunday. Greg says, Ryan, you're the best. No, Greg, you're the best. Greg is one of the nicest people I've ever met. And we'll wrap it there. On Wisconsin, appreciate y'all so much. Have a great Sunday, and we will talk tomorrow for sure.